The Fourth Watch starts now.
You're listening to Omega Frequency with BDK on the Fourth Watch Radio Network.
This is BDK, host of Omega Frequency. Today I'm honored to present a special episode where Andy Jennings and Leonard Ulrich take us on a journey into the not-so-dissident future. Welcome, everyone. It looks like your weekly transmission is being hijacked. The signal, it's being scrambled. I'm picking up a foreign frequency, and it looks like it's coming from the UK. Is this the War of the Worlds? Or a brave new world? Or just a glimpse into the not-so-dissident future?
Hi folks, it's Andy here from the not-so-distant future, not with Mel. And I'm happy to be alive this day. Had a bit of a close shave recently. Nearly went to be with the Lord. But happy to be here and happy to be chatting with my friend Leonard Ulrich. Haven't spoken to him for a while, and a lot of water has gone under the bridge. So, over to Leonard. How are you doing, my man?
Well, I'm doing great. Had a number of delays. We can get into that if we want. But nothing as intense as what you have gone through recently. And please share with us in as much detail as you would care to share what happened to you recently.
Well, I won't go into too much detail. Just tell you quickly. I went in for a basic routine nose operation, not for vanity, honest. Just to have my nose kind of cleaned out and widened because I've got like allergy issues, and I had a rugby injury when I was a kid, so I wasn't don't breathe through the one side of the nose. So a basic one day in and out operation, and within 24 hours of coming out, I had a serious problem with my foot, and it turned out I had a staph aureus infection in my foot, and I had to rush to hospital, and it got into my blood, and it was looking a bit iffy, terrible fever, and it was going straight. So time was of the essence to get the antibiotics, send the cavalry in and get it, attacking it very quickly. Bit scary, got to say. I was in hospital 2 weeks. And for a while, they just didn't know at all what was going on, what it was. Had all the experts, different groups from different departments, and they just didn't know what was going on. I don't know how it happened. There's some suspicion it went in through my nose and got into a blood capillary. But they don't understand. This is the game changer. They don't understand that it got to my foot from my nose without going through my heart, because my heart should have been infected. But my heart wasn't infected, so it looks like I dodged a bullet. Praise the Lord. That didn't happen, and came home, been home about 4 weeks since then, so 6 weeks altogether. My foot's still bad, got a nasty thing on the bottom, maybe some bone danger, infection, but it was definitely out of the woods and healing, so that's the be all and end all. It was a bit of a scary thing, and obviously I haven't been through anything quite like that before, and it made me think about death, and really the reality, it really brings it home to you, and when you believe in Jesus, it is the only thing you're holding on to, and it really, we can read books, we can think about things, we can know things in our minds, but it really hits home when you think, wait a minute, I'm out of here. I could be out of here. And that would be it. All my plans, all my things that I do and don't do or whatever, could be just a distant past, then I'd go home to be with Jesus. And it really hits home. And with that in mind, I'm just glad to be here chatting with you, Leonard. During that time, recovery, I've had plenty of time to kind of think things about CERN and about developments in the world and stuff, and also, looking at the political situation and whatever that's going on, all the very fast moving and shaking that's taking place. So I had a bit of a break because I worked 2 jobs, so I've had a lot of time to not really do that and actually stop and think, write a few lyrics from the band as well, a few songs, type a few loose ends of songs that needed doing for a new album we got coming out. So the Lord's used it in a very strange way. But the main thing is he's actually done a lot of deep work in me, of trusting him, really, and I've realised what he went through a lot more in depth, really, when he died for us. We know he did. We've watched films about it. You can see the Passion of the Christ. But when you actually think about what he really went through, it was horrendous, and you can't fully understand it because he said he took all our sins upon him, as well as the physical pain, the torture, the rejection, the human aspect of it. And so with that in mind, it's a little thing what I went through, but facing the reality of death really hits you, that he went through, became a normal man and went through death and faced it. And because he did and rose again, those of us who believe in him have that hope. And that's where the rubber hits the road. All the things we're probably going to talk about, exciting and interesting things, really pale into insignificance in light of death and being raised and going to be with Jesus. And if not believing in him, not that, which is very, very stark and serious. So anyway, that's it, Leonard. That's what I've learned, or I'm learning at the moment.
Well, that's quite a lot. And over here on my end, I've had to get my priorities centered as well. My dad is in a personal care home. He's not going to come out. That's the reality that we're all dealing with as a family. And, God has blessed us tremendously. And my own mom died of cancer when I was 17. And my dad remarried. And essentially, we had two well-off families become one. And when two well-off families move out to 5 acres, you've got a lot of stuff, or a lot of place to put a lot of stuff. And I'm telling you, Andy, it took months to clear out all this so-called good stuff. Right. And in the end, you finally realize, you know what? It's just stuff. And you spend months moving things that you thought were just so important. And now we realize that it's just the family relationships and another day to live that's really important. So that's where I've come from. My mom is now in an apartment, and the house finally sold after being out on the market for a year. Wow. Apparently, nobody wants to have 5 acres about 10 miles outside of the city of Winnipeg, Canada, where I live. They all want large homes on small lots and have the illusion of a large property without the need to maintain it. And that says a lot about our society today as opposed to 40 years ago when a big property was all the rage.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so there was that aspect of my family. And then let's see, where do I begin? My computer decided to die a month ago, and $1,200, and 2.5 weeks later, I finally got that straightened out. And if you're listening to my voice now, every one of you, please, please, please make an image of your main hard drive, because backing up your files isn't good enough. I spent $1,200 because I have programs running within programs that are operating system sensitive. And it took a guy from California to remote log into my computer to fix permissions and code to allow me to access all my footage that I shot for Volume 2 in a proper way. Instead of looking like a faded newspaper, it actually has color and depth to it. Mm-hmm. So for me to go out again and reshoot everything that I shot for my second film would have just sent me for a loop. So there's the family aspect, the film aspect. I've had to replace my vehicle, and I'm going to have to replace my roof. So a lot of distractions, some good, some materialistic, and some just downright nasty as far as my computer is concerned. So we're back on track, and to be perfectly blunt, when the so-called Pizzagate issue broke pretty much during the American election, presidential election, I went down the rabbit trail, and Andy, the sheer size of the human trafficking, pedophilia, sex slave industry worldwide is just staggering. And I've got a new appreciation for Revelation 18, where it talks about the Babylonian economy, and it rattles off a list of dozens of things that are all traded in this economy, and it ends so accurately in the bodies and souls of men.
I don't know how you feel, but when you realise he sees all that abuse, that child abuse, We're just getting a little glimpse of it. And, of course, I don't know if it's going to be fully exposed before we leave this place or whatever, but it will be exposed fully when Jesus comes back. But I know exactly what you mean. It's horrendous. On every level, you're finding that the world, wherever you just lift a pebble, you're finding this terrible stuff underneath. Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Yeah, I mean, when I say human trafficking, I'm talking about the full spectrum of human trafficking, from pedophilia and sex slave operations, which are just so rampant, to just industrial scale organ harvesting.
Yeah.
I saw a video from China where these two Chinese doctors who are absolutely steeped in the communist ideology go on to a Western interview on camera, and they're claiming how Chinese dissidents are willing to give up their organs in order to aid the restoration of Chinese society.
Whoa.
And then the camera pans into the lobby of this large Chinese hospital, which specializes in organ transplants. And Andy, it's the entire world that's there.
You're joking.
I mean, no, red, yellow, black, white, anybody with money goes to China to get whatever they need. You just pay your money and we will get you a Chinese dissident. And I'm kidding you not, they have mobile execution vans so they can deliver the organs fresh. And we're talking on an industrial scale. And that's just one nation.
I read the Bible and I sprang to my feet. It said it's time to get serious. It ain't no time to be cool. Watch Darren Russo on Google Video. And halfway through I thought, uh-oh, here we go. I guess it's time to get serious. It ain't no time to be cool.
Then there's a spiritual aspect, and this is where I got into a depression because it's just so dark. I now understand what Jesus said when he said that if any man harms a little child, it would be best if he were never born. And I can tell you, based on the writings of Aleister Crowley, which I had the nerve, unfortunately, to read, he went on about the ideal child sacrifice. And I'm not going to put up any information or any links to this because I don't want to glorify that deep, desperate, despicable practice. But I can tell you categorically, mate, that he was totally into child sacrifice. Both of his children died in mysterious circumstances. And I can't tell you where the bloodlust ends for a human being and the bloodlust begins for the demonic forces that are involved in this kind of practice. And I can also tell you that it doesn't just go on in Bohemian Grove. It's going on all over the place. Europe, North America, South America, you name it. It's going on. It's considered entertainment for the elite. And so that's when my brain just couldn't handle it. I just short-circuited for about 2 months. And it's like you said, we live in such a dark world. But as long as we have our television and our cars and can go to a job, can put food on the table, we don't see in many cases, the big picture.
Well, we finished writing a song called Sergeant Pepper Major Tom, and it's about Aleister Crowley.
I love it.
Yeah, it skimmed the surface. Obviously, you can't say an awful lot in the song, but that basically people weren't really aware of it. But really, the Pied Piper came to the town when Aleister Crowley came on the scene at the turn of the century, and many of artists, singer-songwriters, our talented people entertained the writings of Aleister Crowley. I guess they didn't know too much about the real dark stuff. Those that wanted to go there could if they wanted to. But, you have Leonard, you have Jim Morrison, Killing Joke, that's a more recent band, Jimmy Page, and there's quite a lot of other guys, Bowie tinkered with it as well, wrote some songs about him on Space Oddity. He came to town. He came up with the idea of what we now call free love, or do what you want, rock and roll, which actually was the whole of the law is do what thou wilt, which is basically the heart and root of what we would now call Luciferianism, which is basically wants what the mankind and do your own thing, do what God wants you to do. And he came up with that kind of phrase. It got translated as, do your own thing, man, it's cool. And now we're living at the time with the hangover, with the consequences of all that. People follow that way of free love and do what you want, and it seemed like freedom. But actually it was binding. And when people turned away from the goodness and the love of God, because love involves law, it involves, commitment, faithfulness, all those kinds of things. And we were being sold the idea of faithfulness is just old hat, just go with who you want. That's true love. That's true, freedom. But actually it wasn't freedom because, 10 years later after the 60s and stuff, people were writing songs complaining and saying, oh no, she left me or he left me, and what went wrong? Because really at the heart of man is that we do want security with someone else that will love us. But, we do want that. So all the moaning and groaning came afterwards. I mean, that's just an aside. That's just a simple level on which it worked. But it did have massive consequences. The generation that came after that, the pop generation, that revolution, cultural revolution, very much influenced by the Muses and Aleister Crowley and the thinking of Aleister Crowley.
Disciples of the new age sage.
and we're living now with a couple of generations or so later, and now you have your pop culture, your Illuminati pop culture, Lady Gaga, who loves Aleister Crowley, basically copies his things. Other people into that kind of stuff as well. It hasn't gone away. He was a massively influential person. Obviously, he died a very sick heroin addict or drug addict, and the devil wanted to finish with him. He just threw away the body, but the spirit lives on, and the teachings live on, and people are still entertaining those things now. And if you go to the very highest levels of society, obviously Aleister Crowley isn't that influential when it comes to the major powers of the world, but he was culturally,
Totally. And the world has changed so much since I was a child. I mean, it's almost like the invention of the wheel. And when I was in high school, up until 1985, we had the Lord's Prayer every morning in school. Now, I'm shocked to realize that we have Aboriginal spirituality now incorporated into the curriculum. I mean, we literally have a teepee built behind the school with the medicine wheel and an Aboriginal elder is visiting the school, giving offerings to who knows what. And apparently this is considered part of Canadian heritage. And I shake my head. We threw out Jesus, and we've invited paganism.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder why you talk to the average young person today, and they have no identity other than what the classroom and the media say is their identity.
Well, the education system, if you join the dots and follow the money, you're talking about an education system for the world, really, that comes, if you follow it, comes from the UN. The old-fashioned classical education system that you'd have. You study classical literature, all those thinkings, all the philosophers, all the thinking that's gone ahead before. Well, no one has that. There are no shoulders of giants to sit on now because we've got rid of them, and so people have no point of reference who are brought up in the system today. They have to have revisionary history. Even within churches today, you have people tinkering and saying, main denominations and stuff, saying that Allah's the same God as Yahweh, Elohim. So. If they're saying that, I mean, that's really, really, they might not think that's a very serious thing, but, Yahweh's main problem throughout history, throughout the Old Testament, it wasn't necessarily whether you were doing something nasty to your friend. That was bad. The main issue was idolatry, which is worshipping other gods, even doing it in his presence or in his temple or whatever. It's such a serious issue because God... he's the real deal. But when you know who he is, and you're a Christian, I mean, I went to a Christian ceremony, a baptism of a member of my family a couple of years ago, and the vicar is paid to be a flipping Christian. Stood up, and he couldn't even be true to God then. He had to say, well, thank you for this day, whoever you are, whichever God you are, we're all have different beliefs, and whatever God it is, he's thinking this guy's paid. He could at least pretend to be a Christian. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute. He actually said that?
Yeah, he's a vicar, paid to be a vicar, and he did that.
Oh.
What a sellout!
Wow.
What a man who's scared of. It's fear of man. What people will think of you if you stand for Jesus Christ alone. And that's serious.
I would have probably walked out at that point.
Well, yeah. Well,
I mean, you don't want to cause a scene, but you can't stand for it.
Well, I didn't actually go to the baptism bit of it. I went to the bit afterwards, and that's where he said it when we were having our food, and he was going to thank God for the food in the day. So I didn't actually go to the baptism because actually I didn't even believe the baptism was correct because I actually read the baptismal service. And I thought, as a Christian, I can't go to this because it goes completely against the gospel. The whole
right.
It was a real Catholic, although not Catholic, but high Anglican thing, which was basically denying the gospel by actually making out that a child is saved just by everyone else believing for it. So I just thought, anyone who's an unbeliever listening to that won't understand the gospel ever. That it's very serious. And I had a few members of family there who knew I was a Christian. I mean, I couldn't go to it anyway before God. I'd asked to sing a song at it, but there's no way I could have done it because at once I'd read what was going to be said at it and whatever. I went along to the kind of thing afterwards just to be friendly and everything in the family. But there was people there I know who are staunch atheists in my family, and they know I'm a Christian. And if I'd have gone along there and nodded my head and gone along with all that claptrap, well, that's no witness at all. That's wrong, you know. So even though it's family, you know. So
wow.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, we've got Muslim calls to prayer now in Western Christian churches, but it's never the reverse, is it?
No. It's all one-way traffic. It's outrageous, and the consequences is dreadful. It will backfire. It'll be pain. Save yourself some pain. Just keep it simple. Keep to Jesus. Keep to the Yahweh Elohim, the true, the Creator God. But this kind of syncretism is the zeitgeist of our age, really. I mean, that's what the devil would like to do in order to ride. He wants to ride that surfboard into him being God. That's the way he can kind of actually be acknowledged as God. If he gets everyone else to think all is God, he can then say, well, he's God. And then once he's got to that point, he can actually depose all the ones that think they're God and say, well, actually, it's me, guys. I mean, he gets to man by lying to man to say he can be God in the same way, that the same mistake he made. And then once he gets man to think he's God, he can then say, well, all is God. So are angels, so am I. And then he goes, well, I'm God. And then he kicks away the ladder and says, it's just me, guys, actually, at the end of the day. And by the way, does all his miracles in the tribulation. He's got his Antichrist who rises from the dead and all that kind of stuff. And everyone goes, oh, who's like this guy? Ooh. Double whammy. I always find it interesting, the very things Jesus did and claimed about himself and was, attempted to be stoned for, but which was actually, they said, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. It's very interesting, actually, the very, very thing. It's a very, very parallel pattern for the beast of Revelation. That, he will claim, or in Thessalonians, he will claim to be God as a man, but he'll be received. The difference was Jesus wasn't, because Jesus was interested in the issue of sin and righteousness.
Now
That's it. That's the stark difference. But there'll be a lot of parallels. Very similar things.
Oh, totally. Because we have to remember the historical context in which Jesus lived. You had the Roman peace. Okay, 1/3 of the planet was under Roman rule, and all the writers of the New Testament would have been under that influence. And so, what do we have today? Well, today the power of America is in decline, just like the power of the British Empire was in decline, starting from World War I and ending in World War II. And we've got the new kids on the block, as in China, in alliance with Russia. And our weapons are much more destructive now than they were even 100 years ago. And so the more chaos that exists in the world, the more people will want a savior. Yeah. And unfortunately, that savior is going to turn out to be very nasty, like the Bible says. Yeah,
and I guess, but he'll start off looking very nice, I presume. Pretty charismatic, interesting guy. I mean, there's a couple of guys. I mean, I guess we live in the spirit of the age of Antichrist. I think, there's a lot of people going for the job, that are like him, like the beast. I'm not saying they are. I definitely think someone like Obama, who comes from nowhere, who has this really weird background. No one knows who he is. We discussed this last time. Who basically just walks across the American football field without. He could walk there. Everyone's blocking for him. Not one word of criticism or anything for 8 years and that kind of stuff. And everyone shielding for him. And then you got people like this Macron guy coming out of France and stuff. Who is he? He's just nobody. He's exactly like. He's a faceless person, just like Obama. And yet he's a globalist. He's pro all the things that Hillary Clinton and Angela Merkel will want, and he's totally part of the elite, the globalist, rubbing, shoulders with the multinationals and all that stuff. And then you have someone like Jared Kushner, who's like, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, and you think, look at these guys, they're all young guys, and they're kind of really influential, And you have Donald Trump saying, well, if there's any one person that can broker a peace treaty with Israel, it's my son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And you think, flip, there's a lot of people going for the job. It's probably none of them, but, my opinion is that whoever it is probably going to be Nimrod, but reconstituted. But there you go. That's me being a bit wacky. But, Oh, no, I would agree with that, by the way. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. It makes sense. The second coming of the Antichrist, not the first coming, So he's been around before.
Yeah, I mean, just on the political front, then we'll get to the spiritual front again, because that's where the real action is. I agree with you. I mean, if France doesn't elect Marine Le Pen, it is done. It will literally become the Islamic Republic of France.
Yeah.
And it's exactly like you said. You got this guy Macron who just comes out of nowhere. And apparently some information about him leaked out, but then, of course, the bought-off globalist press immediately suppresses it and passes laws saying you can't look at this, literally. Yeah. And now I guess we'll find out the results of the election by tomorrow, pretty much. And you know what?
Yeah. What?
The cultural invasion of Western Europe in particular is now so complete that I read one study and it said that in 3 years' time, you will have as many Muslims worshiping in mosques every weekend as you do Christians worshiping in churches every weekend in London.
Yep. Well, I think it was Melanie Phillips. She wrote a book called Londonistan and another great book called World Turned Upside Down. You should get it. She's not a Christian. She's a Jewish lady, but she's very, very insightful. But she said denial is a river that runs through a city called Londonistan.
They should just rename the Thames. Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. And of course, you can't criticize the situation because then you're just a bigoted racist. And so enjoy the cultural enrichment. It's going so well.
It's wonderful, yeah, fantastic. I mean, really, I suppose the way I see it is that you have socialism, left-wingness, which basically it destroys everything in the end. It hates all good things in the end. It has to destroy them. Kind of socialism is like communism with patience. But Islam is the same. It's like it wants to destroy all the good things that the Western world has benefited from the Judeo-Christian worldview, because it's kind of jealous. It's like, well, it's worked and people are happy, and and it's like, so we want to come to your country and then destroy it, what you've got. Enjoy the benefits for a few minutes, so that we can kind of get a foothold and a voice, and then destroy it so that you can all be just as unhappy and dour as we are, because it's absolutely no fun living under that regime. Islam. It's
And then you have the lunacy of representatives of Saudi Arabia being named to the United Nations Commission for Women's Rights. You can't write this, No,
the world upside down, mate. And so you have socialism and which is the new right now, by the way, that wants to ban everything. It's so ironic. The new left is the right wing. Is conservatism. They're the new nice guys. The right always ended up being the left wing always ended up being right wing in history. The most right wing, the most unpleasant, the most controlling and totalitarian. It's you had neither National Socialism, or you had communism, you had China, and all the revolutions in Russia and stuff. And they destroy everything. It must destroy everything. It has to destroy everything. It was a revolution of destroying all things good. All the divisions that God's put in place, like the difference between God and nature, the difference between man and animals, the difference between male and female. You've got to trash it all. You've got to destroy it. Even the division between nations, no borders and all this stuff. All those things that God has put for a reason, for a purpose, in his economy, have got to be torn down. Aleister Crowley again, do what thou wilt, break it all down. And then you go in and divide and conquer. And I'm now convinced that the elites, there is a small amount of elites that know this. They have this plan. Others probably caught up with it naively in their wish to, they probably believe it. Others, and probably the elites, believe it anyway, actually believe that actually they are doing everybody a favour by perhaps cutting the world population, bringing all these things about so that we can have a wonderful new world order with less people hanging around.
Do you believe in love? Do you believe it's true? Does it come from above, or does it come from you? Do you believe in a global village? Do you believe in the new age man? Is there a reason for his worldwide killings? Or is it just a shame? Do you believe in love? Do you believe it's true? Does it come from above, or does it come from you? Do you believe in a new world order? Is there a market for your hand? Do you believe on a free society? Or is it just a
for example, I know that Jordy Rose of DWave Computing has contracts with the CIA. What I do not know is how advanced the DWave supercomputer, which is it's not a binary computer, it's a quantum computer. Yeah. Boy, how do I explain this? Because it's so significant. The computers that you and I enjoy are pretty darn powerful. One of the hardest tasks I can throw at my computer is to pick the noise out of multiple 4K streams of video out of the image, pixel by pixel.
Wow.
And I sat down and I actually calculated the number of pixels involved in, say, recording a wedding or a concert or what have you, so I can denoise it. And I think I came with the number of like 2.4 trillion pixels if I'm doing 2.5 hours of recording per 4K camera. And so my computer is able to pick the noise out of those signals, but it's literally working, Andy, 2.5 days at that task.
Right.
Yeah. So imagine a computer now. This is the reason why I went down that rabbit trail, so you can appreciate the sheer computing power required for the following task. Okay. Andy, I'm talking about no less than a computerized simulation of planet Earth, where every single piece of electronic data for every single one of us on planet Earth, 7 billion plus of us, is accessible to a computer and processable in real time with thousands of variables. For example, what would be the reaction of, say, Americans if the President of the United States, Donald Trump, would undergo a limited nuclear assault on North Korea? You could literally get the answer to that question. Literally, within a few percentage points. And so this is the technology that the CIA, NSA, all the three-letter agencies that we're not even aware of, MI6, you name it, have access to, and we don't.
Wow.
And literally, I mean, my mind strains to comprehend the billions of terabytes of data that this kind of computer can crunch. And this is why I'm saying we're living in a time that's more dangerous than ever before, because according to former CIA insiders like Robert David Steele, he insists that all the false flag attacks that America has experienced from 9/11 onwards, and including 9/11, have been false flag attacks. So I'm watching a matrix-like reality around me develop, and there's no such thing as coincidences. So now I'm starting to second guess everything that I see, not because I'm paranoid, but because the program is working that effectively.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founder.
Well, there have been extraordinary scenes in Berlin tonight as thousands of people gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. Democratic presidential hopeful laid out his vision for America's place in a new world order.
One of those moments in history in which there is the necessity for a new world order.
I saw a beast on the cattle scene. It had 7 heads and 10 horns. When the horns were white skinned clowns, and each head had a name of blasphemy. I saw a beast on the cattle scene. It had 7 heads and 10 horns. And on the horns were white skinned clowns, and each head had a name of blasphemy.
It's the need for a new world order.
Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice. It's the only way, the one way, to protect our common security and advance our common humanity.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny you talk about DWave Computers. I've just been reading a book called Revising Reality. It's got Anthony Patch, Doug Woodward, Josh Peck, and Gon Shimura writing about it, the changes that are taking place, and with the with quantum physics, quantum computers on the scene now, how the game is changing, and with DNA. Well, there's so much to take in. But what you just said about the DWave computers, Anthony Patch was saying that they are the key to what's happening at CERN, because up to now, with CERN, the Large Hadron Collider and the Awake one that's within it, up till now they haven't had the computer ability to maintain the opening of a portal. They've had a few little goes, but in order to control the process of opening a portal, forget looking for particles. They're looking for dimensions now. They're looking for the stuff between the fabric of reality. So the D-Wave computer, because it's quantum, which means it operates in another dimension. It doesn't just use binary or digital. It goes outside of that. It's much. I don't know the technicality of it, but it's much quick. Obviously, very, very quick.
It's hyperdimensional.
Hyperdimensional. That's right. I know that Google have just bought one, and NASA have just bought one. They cost millions and millions, but the key to maintaining the opening of a portal is the D-Wave computer, and the key to opening it, we don't, there are. I mean, that's the question, and you do wonder with Revelation chapter 9 verses 1 to 11, where it talks of the key to the abyss being given to an angel. The star fell from heaven, and the key was given to the angel, and he opened the bottomless pit, the abyss, Absu. You do wonder if we are that's going to be it. That's going to be the opening of a portal, and all hell will be let loose, and a fulfillment of a prophecy at some point in the future, because they seem hell-bent on doing this. You had 100 countries in the world sponsoring this, sending millions and billions, to sponsor this project, which no one really knew about until recently. What is mankind doing? Does he know what he's doing? Is it spiritual? Are they genuine? Are there spiritual people controlling this or sponsoring it? Because they have a view to seeing spiritual things come through that dimension, from that dimension. Or is there some even deeper thing, which is the throwback to the golden age of Kronos, which is the idea of the connection with Saturn, which mythologically, in the ancient, the idea of getting back to the golden age wasn't just to Atlantis, it was to a pre-existent age, in theory, of this Earth and its relationship with Saturn. And if you could get a particle, if you get an open portal and get a particle can go from us to Saturn, you've got the bridge. And maybe that's the connection to the abyss and the releasing of things that have been bound up there by Jesus since the flood.
Well, you know what? You are precisely right, because Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." The words principalities and powers translates from the Greek, from cosmokratos, meaning it's cosmic. I mean, it's interplanetary, intergalactic, whatever. It's cosmic. And I don't think it's any accident that one of the spiritual battles mentioned in the Bible is on the plains of Shinar, and there is an exact representation of the pyramids of Giza on Mars.
Right. And
it's, the mathematical odds of that occurring are just incalculably high. So you have to wonder, is there such a thing as prehistory in the Bible? And there are certain passages which certainly lend themselves to that interpretation. But the point is, even God himself said to the gods, which I find quite interesting, because if God says these entities are gods, and the Bible says that these entities are gods, then you know what? They might as well be gods.
Yep.
And he said to these gods, you know what? You will now die like men.
Right. Why would you say? You wouldn't say that to men, would you?
No, it makes no sense. I see lots of theological interpretations which just twist scripture to deny the spiritual reality behind that. And I'm going, no, I don't buy what you're selling. And of course, the Bible says that towards the end of history, which is what I think we're in, I truly believe that we are in the final 1% of history, which makes things very exciting. That all that stuff is coming back. For example, I don't want to take too much time on this subject, but I have been watching the recent Alien movie series. We've got a new one coming out in about 2 weeks. And, Andy, I mean, it's biblical. Yeah, it's about aliens and it's about horror, but you know what? When the Bible starts talking about men's hearts failing them for fear of what's coming upon the earth, and it talks about beasts with long hair and sharp teeth and things that can literally make images of themselves, you're starting to think about genetic aberration and genetic cloning and all kinds of dark stuff. And again, I don't want to go too much into this, but the point is, one of the central characters in Prometheus, which is itself a loaded term.
Yeah.
Okay. Prometheus, of course, being the name of the god, small g, who gave fire to men. In other words, knowledge to men, which is just a Greek version of Lucifer.
Yeah, stole it from Zeus and gave it to men. That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, stole it from the gods and gave it to men, or God, and gave it to men. The main character there, played by Noomi Rapace, some Norwegian name, which I'm probably butchering. The film clearly shows that she had a missionary father, and she's drawing upon this history, and at what point she's actually praying to Jesus in order to get rid of this alien that's inside her. And her husband becomes infected with this alien virus. And you have a whole titanic struggle of the two classes of engineers, what I will call the scientists and then the engineers. The scientists were very cold, calculating, and created all these genetic monsters to keep humanity suppressed so as to never attain their level of development. And at one point, the Earthlings, but there's hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on changing the culture of planet Earth, changing the mindset of planet Earth. And the only reason why these hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent per film is because they're making money at it.
Well, yeah, when you watch a film, you've got to, everybody preaches, everybody is, even if they're not intentionally doing it, when you write a book, when you make a film, you're actually giving over a message through a story. The story is the vehicle, but actually you're giving over a worldview. And the worldview that you're taught in the Prometheus film, we all get a good lesson at the beginning when there's that, they all stand in that hangar or whatever, and they're given a lesson, and all those kind of visuals of the gods that have been drawn on walls and stuff, yeah? Everyone's told, these are the gods, these are, we didn't quite understand it, but anyway, here's the heads up, these are the ascended masters, these are the ones who put us on Earth, which is basically, that's going to be probably the great deception, that the fallen angels, the new, what some people might call them, beings from outer space, ascended masters, others will call them the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, whatever. They are the people who put us here, and they're here to come and help us again. They're our friends. That's the setup, but God didn't make you, right? It was evolution. We put you here. We're here to help you evolve to the next level and become like gods. And that's the big deception, I think, because I think a lot of people are attracted to that idea. And after you've watched a load of those films, you kind of believe it. It's not right in the forefront of your mind. But when someone asks you a theological question and you're thinking, oh, flip, what do I say? You'll grab for that kind of stuff, and you'll find out that's kind of what you believe. That's how it works.
Oh yeah, this is, we're watching the inculcation of the alien gospel, and in this alien gospel, there's quote unquote good cop and quote unquote bad cop, just to confuse the issue. And the reason why there's a good cop and a bad cop is because the powers that shouldn't be will use the bad cop to try to eliminate adhesion of humanity towards the good cop, which was always God in the first place. So we're getting into all kinds of things which, if we were to discuss this just 5 years ago, would seem like we're a bunch of nutters. But we're watching the cultural programming in the media. We know for a fact that this is a desire of a bunch of mad scientists. I mean, literal mad scientists around the world, and are trying. And the Bible says eventually they're going to succeed. So we need to prepare ourselves mentally. We hope this thing doesn't happen in our lifetime, but we know it's eventually going to happen. So we might as well prepare not just ourselves, but future generations for future reality.
Well, another part of the CERN project issue is a thing called particles called strangelets. Now, these are very, very dense, and they're the most powerful particles. And they, whenever the Large Hadron Collider does its job, does its business, loads of these strangelets get created, and they go straight to the center of our Earth because they don't stop. Wherever they don't go, there's nothing that can hold them back. They're so dense. But what keeps them in the center of the Earth is our magnetism and our poles of our Earth. But the problem is, after 10 or so years, they will start to have massive creaking effects on our tectonic plates and volcanic activity. It's a build-up thing. They don't just stop being strangelets. They stay there. It accumulates. And the more of these experiments they do, the more consequences there'll be on Earth. Now, Jesus did say there'd be an increase in earthquakes and volcanoes, etc. So, in diverse places. So, obviously, it will play a part in that as well,
Oh, totally. And again, it's the whole desire of man wanting to be God. And just because we can have the power of the sun on Earth, like is nuclear weapons, or what I'm hearing now is a whole new fusion technology where you literally can create a small sun in a laboratory and then just use the thermal energy to power whatever you want. I mean, this is reality now. And the scientists are playing God with the weather. They're playing God with the planet itself. Just as you can induce birth in a pregnant woman, I'm telling you right now, the technology is through scalar weaponry to induce earthquakes and tsunamis in areas where there is geologic tension. And this isn't science fiction. This is science fact. So we're just, we're killing ourselves.
And at the same time, you've got the development with technology that the personal neurological interface, or whatever it is, which is where they want your mind and your thinking and your wavelengths to actually go up into the cloud using the kind of Tesla ether kind of technology. So there's a lot of game changing going on. Like the Chinese have just stuck a whole lot of quantum computers, satellites up, which is going to revolutionise the internet. The internet that we have now is going to just be changed and trumped by this new step up. So the speed, the acceleration, what we're talking about now could be old hat in about 6 months, or the speed at which everything's changing. But it is immense, and it's easy to just forget about it with the everyday troubles of life, and you think, oh well, that's just going on. But it's good to step back and stop and just take count of things. Just stop and think, wait a minute, where are we on the prophetic calendar? Where are we? Where are we going? And where are the breaks? And there are none. And it's heading and speeding towards the scenario spoken of by Jesus in the book of Revelation. We're heading towards a system, the mark system, where every man or woman, child, slave nor free will receive a mark on their forehead or their hand, and will not be able to buy and sell unless they have that. I mean, that's just like probably boring now. I mean, I remember 20 years ago, and years when I got saved, I found out about this stuff, and people would look at you in a strange way and think, nah, never, that's ridiculous. Where have you heard that from? And now people would go, well, of course, hey, it's cool. They wouldn't be shocked by it, because like the frog in the kettle, we've become used to everything. So the stuff like, 20 years ago, you could have said the word Illuminati and everyone would know nothing about it. Nowadays, it's just like a kind of meme that chips off everybody's tongue. They go, oh yeah, Illuminati or something. Yeah, I've heard about that. I know about that, yeah. So it just shows where we're at and how, and as Christians, we have to guard against becoming familiar with things and over familiar with things we talk about and think, oh well, move on, I want to know something new. We need to take stock and almost go back in time and remind ourselves of how things have changed. Remind ourselves, let's go through the basics. There's going to be a new world order. There's going to be a technological system that entraps man. There's going to be things kicking off in the Middle East. These are the signs. Just keep reminding yourself of those major points, because you can just end up going down rabbit holes.
Precisely.
I think it's really important that we don't get tired of these things, but we can do if we over-obsess on little things. But actually, we need to step back and realign, read the Bible, keep our nose in that, and keep reminding ourselves of where we're at, and not get used to it. Because I know people get tired. I've known people who've been really interested in this kind of thing, and it's built their faith, and then they've got tired of it, and they go, oh yeah, Illuminati, Shmamuminati, Mark of the Beast, yeah, so what? And I've heard of all that. And it's this kind of dangerous attitude to not be alert. The enemy wants to wear you down, and he wants to get you tired, but it's important to keep your eyes on these things and on Jesus. Mainly on Jesus, but also the things that Jesus talked about and warned about. The book of Revelation is from Jesus. It's weird, wacky stuff in there, but we're seeing this weird, wacky stuff play out. The truth is stranger than fiction. What was once science fiction is becoming science. I mean, it's magic. The technology we're using now, communicating across a large part of the world, is magic. It's amazing. None of us understand the processes. We don't understand that this sound that's coming out of my mouth is being transferred into waves, which are then transferred into electrical patterns, which then go through some kind of device which translates it into waves that go across the ocean or up to a satellite, then down to where you live, to a receiver, and then translates it back into the same language so it sounds like my voice coming out, coming to you. We just take that for granted, but that is a massive step. And it's happened in our lifetime. It's just incredible. It's not long ago there was no internet. We didn't have this kind of thing. You had to read a book, go to a library if you want to find out about Freemasonry or the Illuminati or something. Now you just put the letter I and L in your Google search, and it comes straight up, and there's memes of it. So everything's accelerating. It's not a time to fall asleep and get used to it. Anyone out there, mate, falling asleep, wake up.
Oh, totally. I mean, what you're saying is so important, because we can get obsessed with the details of this global system that clearly is accelerating. clearly is building. But the point is to keep your eyes on Christ, because what was written in the Bible thousands of years ago is coming true in front of our own eyes. The only antidote to the layers of deception, which was mentioned not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times by Jesus Christ himself in the first section of a single chapter in Matthew 24, is deception. So the only thing that I consider to be true is the living Word.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, it's funny, actually. I was reading that today. Well, do you know what? I was reading it because my friend in my house group, we meet in a house as a church, and my friend Denise, I went round the other night, and they could tell, I mean, I was on codeine, so it makes me a bit more animated when I'm on codeine. I just, I'm a bit louder, or a bit more paranoid, a bit more worried. You're a bit more anything, you're a bit more dumbed down, you're a bit more happy when you're on codeine. I've just come off the codeine in the last 24 hours, so I'm not as,
wow.
I wouldn't be here talking to you otherwise. It'd be crazy. But anyway, and I said, look, I tell you something's eaten me up lately, and it's all this kind of like the elites getting away with all their terrible, terrible tyrant stuff, kind of the nasty villains, the Clintons and the John Podestas and the heads of the FBI and all this stuff. You can tell they're all kind of like they're the animals they're the alligators in the swamp. And I just got there's always something. There's nothing more dangerous than a little bit of hope, isn't there? In this world. My total hope's in Jesus. That kind of hope. I'm not talking about a little bit of hope in this world. And I had a thought that there was going to be a kind of revelation, and people were going to be exposed. Hillary Clinton would, Bill Clinton would. These people who've done terrible things. For what the stuff you mentioned earlier about child trafficking and all that. And I thought it was going to be revealed with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. And nothing has been done. And I was thinking, Lord, are you going to reveal this? Are you going to do it this side of eternity? Because I know, obviously, they will be revealed. It will be revealed. But I got a little bit of hope that something was going to happen, that Trump was going to drain the swamp, and now the swamp's drained him, And I got really upset. And I was saying to them at my house group, I think I've just got a bit carried away thinking something good was going to happen, right? And it was good because you can share, you can be yourself with your brothers and sisters in Christ, can't you? They're all like, oh yeah, we understand, Andy, and stuff. And it's okay. And I do care because I've got grandchildren and they're going to grow up in this world with all these terrible things going on. So you do care on that basis. I can't be totally spiritual about it and say, oh, never mind, it's all right. There's a kind of balance. But so my sister phoned me up yesterday, and she says, oh, I was just reading this, and it's Matthew 24. I've read that loads of times before and stuff, but it was Matthew 24, verse 6, and I just think this is pertinent. This is because it means Jesus knows what's going on, and he's telling us, don't worry. So here we go. He says this. He said, well, let me get my glasses on because I can't see. Jesus answered, verse 4. He says, watch out that no one deceives you. There you go. You're saying about deception. Very important. Mm-hmm. These are the final words of Jesus, right? When you're a teacher and a commander, you leave your final message to your troops, your final message, and basically he says, watch out, no one deceives you. Look for these signs. What is the church doing today? It isn't reading that, and it's not reading the book of Revelation. Anyway, nevertheless, Jesus answers, he says, watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. Here we go. You will hear of wars and rumours of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. And he goes on to list nation against nation. But, he says, do not be alarmed. And I just had to have that word from my sister and from the Bible. Don't be alarmed, Andy. Don't let yourself get overcome by this stuff, because it's very easy to let it get you down. I'm not normally like that, but recently I just did. I put my hope a little bit in this world and the people of this world that they'd sort something out. And I'm learning now my real only hope is in Jesus. And all these things are going to happen, but you just don't worry. It's going to happen, but don't be alarmed.
That is so true. People can call us pessimism pornographers, fear fathers, you name it. But the point is, if you are comfortable with this world as it is, then there's a problem. And it's not with the world, it's with you. I mean, your song, Comfortable in Babylon, is so apropos.
Happy to be slaves in this world, working for the weekly wage. Illuminati flag unfurling, while we're rattling the cage. Put your shoulder to the wind, build your paper once again. Make it better, stronger, faster. Don't we all just want the same? Even though the forecast's looking pretty bad, even though we start clouds looming, we're putting out the deck chairs, waiting in the sun, getting comfortable in Babylon. We should be looking to his coming. It should be settled in our hearts. This is the only true beginning. The promised land is not that far. Put your shoulder to the wind, build your paper once again. Make it better, stronger, faster. Don't we all just want the same? Even though the forecast's looking pretty bad, even though the dark clouds looming, we're putting out the deck chairs, waiting in the sun.
And there is no political solution to a spiritual problem. There is no economic solution to a spiritual problem. There is no military solution to a spiritual problem. God didn't give us a social worker, a scientist, a military general, what have you. He gave us a savior. So the problems which we are seeing on the TV screens and on our internet screens, they're all rooted in the spiritual. So that is why I go through this wars and rumors of wars cycle and say, you know what? Don't give in to fear.
Yeah.
No matter what, okay? Because no matter what happens, I mean, we could have a nuclear exchange next day. It's totally possible. Instead of the West versus East for 50 years, we now have a possible nuclear war on 5 or 6 fronts. You know, Korea, the Ukraine, Syria, Iraq, Libya, I mean, you name it. It's all there. And we're seeing the final stages of another dying empire. 100 years ago, it was the British Empire. And now it's the American Empire being challenged by this upstart Chinese empire in association with Russia after it went through its own collapse. So we've seen this before in history. We're going to see it again. Jesus said it's going to ramp up, but don't be troubled. And I can tell you that after going through as a family what we did and having just literal tons of stuff, in the end, it doesn't really matter. All this stuff doesn't really matter. In the end, you're going to meet your maker, and the only 2 variables in that equation are time and circumstance. So the only question that's left is, what are you doing about it right now? And the answer is, hold on to Jesus. Hold on to the living word. I mean, Jesus can't help but be totally consistent with the Bible, because he's the embodiment of the Bible. And that's the only thing that I consider to be true. A lot of people online and below in the comments section of my videos, they say, "Oh, the Bible was rewritten over history," and immediately pounce on that. And I ask them to prove it. And then they go off into some tangents here and there. And I say, okay, how are you going to rewrite over 26,000 fragments of original copies in the Bible, of the Bible in museums around the world? How are you going to do that? Think through your claims. So, and it's so amazing. I mean, I watch headlines on my computer screen be rewritten in real time. I mean, literally, Andy, I've seen that over and over and over again. But I've never seen proof of one claim that the Bible was fundamentally rewritten since it was written from 2,000 to 3,800 years ago. It's amazing.
Well, we live in it does say knowledge will increase in the last days, and I guess that it's in Daniel, isn't it? But I guess there's different interpretations of that. But stuff's being dug up all the time. Archaeology isn't what Romans did or anyone did until recent times, and no one's been digging, and now everyone's digging. They're hitting stuff all over the place. When I was in Israel a couple of years ago, they were building a local kind of convenience store, putting all the footings in and stuff and digging, and they hit something, and it was a first century synagogue. It's one that Jesus would have visited. It was called in Migdal, where Mary Magdalene would have come from. And wow! All the stuff it's there, it's being dug on now, and it's all there. The stools that they sat on and the designs, all there. And every time they dig, they find something else, and they're afraid to take planning permission because the government just says stop. So there's all these half-built shopping centres and
wow.
These amazing artifacts, just proving the Bible over and over again. Look, I met a guy called Shimon Gibson. My daughter, she did a dig on the Temple Mount. It's a new dig. If you go there, you'll see it. And Shimon Gibson oversees it. He's a kind of world-renowned archaeologist. You see him on TV a lot. And my daughter was best mates with his daughter. She got friends with him. So went round to his house and didn't realise who he was because Lucy didn't even know who he was. She just said, "Oh, come around and see Orel's dad, and we'll have dinner." And we went round to see her, and I said, "I've seen you before. You've been on TV." He said, "Yeah." And of course, yeah. And he went, I said, were you on TV with David Suchet, Inspector Poirot? And he went, "Yes, I was." I was like, oh, flip. And he was just on this thing I'd watched before I went to Israel. Like, it was all about in the footsteps of Peter. But anyway, that aside, there's the name dropping gone. He has written numerous books. Now, he's a secular, non-believing Jew, right? And he has written 3 books on the temple, and he's written one book proving that everything written in the New Testament about Jesus is archaeologically accurate. Why would you do that? That's like a turkey voting for Christmas, and nevertheless, isn't that amazing?
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, there are so many secular historians which have proven the Bible to be accurate in every single aspect. And I can remember the name of a Harvard psychologist. His last name is Mack, I believe, who on the other side of things said that there are over 30 correlations between demonic possession and alien abduction.
Right.
So the Bible is proven in both the negative and in the positive. Yeah. So I've got all the more reason to put my trust in it.
Well, I mean, the more you dig, the more you find. I mean, there's a guy called David Roll, again, another non-believer. Grew up obsessed with Egyptology as a kid, then went off, became a musician, became a producer, then went to UCL to study ancient history, Egyptian history, and learnt all the tools of the trade. Then for the last 30 years, he has been coming up with a brilliant theory, and backed up by a lot of good archaeological evidence, that actually the date line of the pharaohs that we've had up to now is incorrect. And that's why people say, oh, it doesn't fit with the Bible and Moses and Joshua and all. You can't fit anything in line with it. Therefore, the Bible can't be guaranteed. And his findings prove that there was a mistake made in the past with mainstream archaeology and historical explanation. And his theory is very convincing, and it lines up perfectly with Joseph, with Joshua, with Moses, even with David and Saul. They fit in there with Egyptian history. It's absolutely amazing. And also the work on Nimrod and where Babel was built. It was in Eridu, not in Babylon. Again, everyone's saying, oh, no, it's not in Babylon. It can't be true. When did this Nimrod build it? And, of course, we look in the Sumerian texts and we find out that Nimrod was a guy called Enmerkar.
Right.
There you go. It's exactly the same name, just in a different language. The difference is there's a D on the end of Nimrod, which is an adage by the Hebrews, which mentions rebellion. But the rest of it just means mighty hunter, mighty hunter. But the Hebrews have put the D on, which is a rebellious mighty hunter. So there's your difference there, which of course we now know he was. David Roll, a worthwhile guy. Seriously, I want to recommend this guy, David Roll's work. He's got a book called Exodus, Myth or History. Absolutely mind-blowing, big book, full of research. It's amazing. So current historical understanding is on the rocks, as is loads of stuff. Look, information's increasing. We're now having to rethink about the universe and how where is there dark matter which they theorised there was, holding the structure of the universe together. They can't find it. They've done one thing after another, trying to prove that they can find its existence by its effect on someone else, and now they're giving up. Yet there's another theory, which is actually that the universe is electromagnetically charged from without, that the sun isn't fueled by fusion, but actually from without, that our universe is electric, which is what Tesla said 100 years ago, but all his research got shelved because of the danger, of course. We could get free electricity, that was another thing. He knew how to do that, and his science would have proved that, and then the whole world wouldn't be run as it is, on oil and coal firing, and the system would, people would have free electricity. How can you control people and make money when people have free energy? Anyway, that aside, the science of Tesla is being revisited about the nature of our universe, and let's just add on top of that even the science of our solar system and the science of our galaxy and the universe. Information's coming back now from these satellites that we've sent out, and finding that the universe has got a pattern. There's a film called The Principle, well worth checking out, that the universe has got a pattern. They call it the axis of evil because it's not meant to be there. Because the theory of the Big Bang is everything just went flying out and hasn't got a pattern. Yet there's a pattern. And here's the game changer. If you're prepared to take this one, the theory is, for the last 400 years, the Earth's obviously not the centre of the universe. It's this, as Carl Sagan said, this kind of thing out on the outsides of some obscure galaxy in the middle of nowhere, and it's not the centre of everything. It is, apparently. Cosmology, the results are coming back, and everything goes from the position of Earth. Now, there's another. That takes us back 400 years.
It's funny you should say all these things because as someone who has a credit in intermediate calculus, I can remember my final exam being 3 questions long, and I was struggling for time to find the answers to those 3 questions. I mean, I was literally on my 20th or 22nd page of just equation notes in addition to the answers. And I really latched on to chaos theory and finding patterns in what people would consider to be abstract information. I can tell you everything follows mathematical formulas, even the formation of a cloud. And everything is an expression of pure energy. Einstein proved that matter is energy, therefore energy is matter. You're just seeing the manifestation of energy around you in the form of solid objects. And you can feel energy in the form of sunlight or what have you. So is it any surprising, is it a surprise that the Antichrist would be, among other terms, be labeled as the god of forces?
Yep.
Right? As someone who really understands these things much more than we do now?
Yes. I mean, I guess there's been downloads of information and technology throughout the time from the fallen angels. We know the Nazis were obsessed with the Vril and, Vimana technology and all that kind of stuff, and anti-gravity technology. And who knows what they've got in various secret military installations. It's a very good chance that the elites have an amazing technology set up for us, but it's waiting to be used at the right time. Satan has his timing. Satan does depend on man to a certain degree. He wants to be worshipped by man. He wants to be worshipped as God in the place of God. So he's got to kind of set that system up. His game is that at the end. His end game is to finally shake the fist into God's face and say, look, I have been worshipped in your place by your people, and take that, kind of thing. And I don't know if he thinks he can literally win. Maybe
he thinks he can.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess he's a lawyer, right? He thinks he can win, and maybe legally he thinks he can get God in. He's got God in the dock, and he can, on a technicality, he can make God out to be untrue to his word. It's more to do with that. It's not about might and power. God, of course, is mighty. He could just click his fingers and just say, "Let's start again." No. The reason this is all playing out, the reason that evil continues to go, and I just keep wishing it would end, and Lord, please come, do something. On the other hand, he's also patient, waiting for every last person who is going to be saved. So anyone out there who's not saved, hurry up so he can do something, But his patience, he desires no one perish. He takes no pleasure in the punishment of the evil. But he must deal with it. But he's letting it play out because... this is my theory, right? In court, there's witnesses and there's juries. And my angle is that God has many accusations against him, and there's many accusations against his people and against us and all that kind of stuff. And the devil can quite easily accuse me because I'm not like God at all. I'm a sinner. I'm bad. And there's things I do right and wrong, but God isn't like that. But Satan wants to make out that God is that. But God is letting the whole thing play out so that everybody throughout time history, even those who are resurrected, will see that God is true in the end, and that Satan was the liar from the beginning. And they wouldn't know he was if he didn't let it play out. I mean, that's just one aspect of it, in my opinion.
Oh, that's not just an opinion that you have. That Scripture backs that up.
Yeah.
Every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is God.
Yeah.
Including the mouth of Lucifer himself.
Yeah. God is true, and every man a liar. That's the real thing. So everything we're talking about now is amazing. It's amazing to live at such a time. If you'd lived 100 years ago, this would just be not on the table. Things to talk about like this re-establishment of the nation of Israel, which puts prophecy back on the cards, technology, chance of building a temple again, all this stuff. I mean, that's an interesting thing, the idea of building a temple. The blueprints are all ready to go. That would be, who knows, a return of Judaism, a big revival of that, and a covenant re-established. What is a covenant? Well, it would be the Mosaic covenant. Obviously, without Jesus, that's an abomination. So we're living in times where there's the will to do it. There are many rabbis saying Mashiach is coming, Of course, it's not going to be Jesus, and it isn't Jesus. And therefore, it'll be the false Messiah. We're witnessing this kind of stuff. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. I mean, if I go and be with the Lord and I don't, it's irrelevant, but nevertheless, it's fascinating. And anyone out there who's not a Christian, who's listening to this, if they've had the patience, you need to believe in Jesus to get saved. You need to make a decision now.
Lies are many, and the truth is rare. The blind lead the blind in Vanity Fair. The truth don't come easy, you got to seek. It won't interrupt you while you quietly sleep. You gotta dig for truth until you find it. You gotta dig for truth until you find it. You gotta dig for truth until you find it. Get down on your knees. Get down on your knees and penetrate the truth.
The evidence is in your face if you look, if you dare look. If you look and you read the Bible and you check out Jesus in the Gospels, and if you look in the newspaper and you look at what's going on in the world and you find out it lines up with biblical prophecy, then don't wait around. Make a decision now, because you don't know how much longer you've got. You don't know what going to happen tomorrow. You need to make a decision real quickly and get right with Jesus. My father-in-law just got saved couple of weeks ago, he went for a triple heart bypass, and before he went there, my wife went and witnessed to him, and my daughter did, and he was really interested. We'd been speaking to him about Jesus for years, and he hasn't been, interested, and then suddenly he's been interested, and he understood he needed to be saved. He had certain questions he needed asking, which is like, why has God allowed evil? We explained why. We explained that God is just, and we explained, well, not everyone's good either, and we've all done something. He understood he'd done things, and then he understood, well, what do I do? And then he realised he needed to put his trust in Jesus, and that guy got saved, and he's a different man. His eyes have lit up. He's a different person. It's amazing. The 82-year-old guy, he had a triple bypass, he's recovered from that, and he loves Jesus. He prays to him, talks to him. He doesn't go to church, but Jesus is real. It's come into his life. I've seen it. He's a simple guy, simple things. Not a complicated guy. He knows Jesus loves him, and he was switched on, and he's understanding things. He's looking at things. He's saying things I never thought he would say. So Jesus is real when he comes into someone's life. It's the spiritual thing. It's not just a download of information. It's a download of God's Spirit into you. His Spirit dwells in you. That is Jesus living in you. So, folks, if you can do it soon, and don't wait much longer, because once you've got the information, you need a lot of faith to not believe it. That's the point. It doesn't take a lot of faith to believe it, because it's so obvious, Christianity, once you look into it, if you dare to look into it. But once you dare to look into it, as I did, I had to have a lot more faith to not believe it. So.
Oh, I would agree with that, with what you said, 100%. It's so precious. People ask me, where's the proof of God? And I say, it's talking to you right now, okay? My mind, my spirit is tuned into a frequency that you're not tuned into yet, because there's two things that you're tuned into. And the first thing is distractions, and the second thing is denial. Yeah. If you actually opened a Bible and you started reading it, like start with the Gospel of John, and then finish reading the whole New Testament, and just do that. Just start reading the Bible, okay? You have to admit that there's no way that one man or a group of men could possibly write this up. It's impossible. I mean, for the idea of Israel coming back in 1948, impossible. In a sea of Islam for a Jewish nation to arise? Are you kidding me? And then for them to go back to an ancient, pretty well dead language? Are you kidding me? This doesn't happen, and yet it's there.
And then to have three wars that were started by their enemies and win them when they're outnumbered 6-1.
Yeah, that's so true. And I could go on and on, but the greatest thing is God exists whether or not you choose to acknowledge him or whether or not you choose to tune into him. Just like radio waves. Okay, you need a device like a Bible to tune you into that, just like you need a device called a radio to tune in to the radio waves that are all around you.
Yep, absolutely, mate. You know what? If you're listening, friend, what the enemy is going to achieve is a copy, a very bad copy, an attempt at doing what you get with Jesus. He is in contact with every believer on planet Earth. We have a relationship with him. We're part of his body. We've taken on his DNA in that sense, spiritually and, ultimately physically when we get a new body. He promises us a new body when we die and rise again. It'll be like his. It'll be one that will not perish. It will always exist. There'll be no tears and crying. There'll be no, all that will be gone. But we'll have a body that's like his, which will enjoy the things like the physical pleasures. We're not Gnostics here. It will enjoy food. We'll be eating everything, enjoying the pleasures of being a physical human being as he originally intended us, but it will not die. That's the big difference. It will be spiritual. It'll be one that can actually transcend dimensions, as Jesus did. People say he went through a wall to actually meet with Thomas after he'd risen from the dead. You might argue that the wall went through him. Maybe he was denser than the actual wall, and our bodies will be denser. But what we get with Jesus is what this new world order and this new technological system, this Tesla system that will probably develop, is a poor man's attempt at the real thing that you get with Jesus. This is so profound.
I couldn't agree more. Again, Andy and I are from two different corners of the planet Earth, with two different subcultures, and yet here we are agreeing on every major thing. Not because we belong to the same political party, not because we have a similar racial background, but because our identity is in Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Once you have that identity, as Hebrews says, there is no difference between male or female or Hebrew or Greek or slave or rich man. Your background doesn't matter. It's what you're tuned into. It's what your identity is. People ask me, Leonard, how did you pick up on this, that, and whatever? And I said, well, simple. It was in the Bible for thousands of years. You just got to uncover it, man.
Totally. And what I want to say to you, friend, is when you read the Gospel of John, you just read it and think, who is this guy, Jesus? And look at the conversations he has with people in every situation, and just think how he responds to everything that's coming at him. And it's perfect the way he responds. It's not like, that'll do, throw that out there, a bit slapdash, oh well, had a bad day that day. You read what he says to these people. Some people are genuinely inquiring about truth. Some people are genuinely in a bad state and need his help. Some people are trying to trap him. Some people are lawyers. You know what lawyers are like? They're trying to find a loophole. Lawyers and liars. They're trying to catch out Jesus, even the theologians, the religious people, because they're out of a job. If Jesus is the real deal, they're out of a job. Okay? That's not just the only reason. That's a political reason. But they know he's God. They know that the Messiah is God. Their own scriptures teach in Daniel 7:13 that he is God. He even quotes it to them, and when he quotes it to them, they rip their clothes and say, we now know who you're saying. You're saying you're God. You're saying you're that guy that we know about, the second Yahweh in the book of Daniel. And I'm just going to read a little bit from John. It says, again, the Jews picked up stones to stone him. But Jesus said to them, I have shown you many great miracles from the Father. For which of these do you stone me? They said, we are not stoning you for any of these. Obviously, they thought they were good miracles, replied the Jews. But for blasphemy, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. And I guess we all fall into one category or not. Do we believe Jesus is God? Do we believe Jesus is true when he says he's God? Or do we stand with the religious leaders of his time who said, you're not God because it's blasphemy? And the world is divided into two. There's those religions and cults that say that disagree on many things, but they all agree on one thing, which is that Jesus is not God. He is a very nice man, he's a prophet, he's a guru, he's an ascended master, but he is not God. Or he might be a socialist or a revolutionary or a Marxist or something. Whatever, if you pick and choose little bits out of the Bible and ignore the rest, you can kind of make him into what you want. But if you take the whole counsel of the Bible, the whole thing, context and all, whole, truth, nothing but the truth, Jesus is God. And you've got to deal with that, friend. You've got to deal with what do you think, who do you say he is? Is he true when he says, before Abraham, I am? And he uses the term Yahweh, and they pick up stones to stone him for blasphemy. They know what he said then. He's saying he is God. I was before Abraham, I am. That is clear reference to the name of God that Moses spoke to. So, where do you stand with Jesus? You might even think Jesus is a great guy, or your idea of Jesus is this, I like him and he's a nice guy, or he did some good things, or he taught some good things on the Sermon on the Mount. It's a good agenda for politics and for the world. But Jesus isn't giving you that luxury. He's saying, I am God. I became a man. I died on the cross, rose again, and ascended back to heaven. And I paid the price for your sins, so that you wouldn't have to go to hell and pay the price for your sins. He went to death. He took your sin in exchange for his righteousness and said, look, I'll give you a straight swap, as they say in the building trade. I'll give you my righteousness. Fair deal if you give me your sin. Now, don't pass it up, friend. He loves you. That is love. He must love you if he's doing that. It says in the Bible that Jesus said, many people will die or do good things for their friends, but who will die for their enemies? But Jesus died for his enemies. He died for those who didn't believe in him. And the thief on the cross next to him, one guy cursed him and said, if you're God, save yourself. Get yourself up off this. Ha ha, mocking. And then the other one says, hey, leave him alone. He's done nothing wrong. And he turns to Jesus and says, remember me, Lord, in your kingdom. And Jesus turns to him and says, I'll see you in paradise this day. That is the mankind is split into two. Those who receive Jesus and look to Jesus in their sin for him and are saved by him, and those who look to him in their sin and reject him. Which will you be, my friend? I think you know the answer.
Exactly.
Everybody's following someone. Are you following Jesus? Or are you following the risen sons? Jesus was a rebel, refusing to bow down to Satan's lies. He was a prophet for a system. He refused to sin and compromise.
You know, none of the politicians of any political party are ever going to be remembered like Jesus was. It's not even in the same league. And then on the other side, you've got a bunch of mad scientists who have completely erased God out of their thinking process and are literally trying to become as God. I mean, so what are you going to put your faith in, man or God? That's it.
Amen. I agree, brother. Absolutely. Well, Leonard, brother, I think we've talked a while, and I think it'd be a good time to finish on that note. Great note about Jesus. It's the only we know each other now. We're friends. We're going to be hanging out. We might not meet each other in flesh, but pretty soon we're going to be hanging out in eternity with Jesus, hanging out, doing whatever we're going to be doing, reigning with him. It's going to be fantastic. He's going to make us able to do everything he wants us to do, and we're going to want to do it. And it's going to be great. It's not going to be some static existence, some sterile existence. It's going to be life. That's what he made us to have life in its fullness. So, how fantastic, eh? Whoa, by the blood of Jesus. There's power in the blood of Jesus to save a soul like me. Fantastic. So, Leonard,
can't wait.
I think we've said everything we need to do. I would have said, is there anything you want to say to anyone? But I think we've just basically explained the gospel and explained the good news. So, should we sign off?
I think we should.
Well, Leonard, the speed at which things are changing, there's going to be something else to speak about. Last time we spoke, Trump hadn't got in, Brexit hadn't happened, etc., etc. So
yeah, North Korea, Trump, Brexit, CERN.
Absolutely. So we'll talk again soon. Anyway. Okay, bro. Signing off. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with someone else. New episodes of Omega Frequency air on Mondays. And if you subscribe to us in iTunes, you'll never miss an episode. Our full podcast archives of previously aired shows, along with their original show notes, can be found online at omegafrequency.com. And we are also blessed to be part of the Fourth Watch Radio Network. Please visit fourthwatchradio.com today and check out a wide variety of episodes that cover paranormal and prophetic topics from a biblical perspective. Now, until next time, this is BDK reminding you that we don't need to fear the future, because in the end, Yeshua wins.